The tyrants of the galaxy. The galaxy had long been under the ruthless rule of the Xathar, an alien species feared by all. Their empire stretched across countless star systems, crushing any who dared to oppose them. They were known for their cruelty, their unrelenting thirst for control, and their advanced technology that made them nearly unstoppable. No one could challenge their reign, and for centuries, the galaxy had lived in fear. The Xathar were a race of towering, armored beings with sharp predatory features. Their warships were massive, built to intimidate and overpower. The Xathar's fleets patrolled every corner of the galaxy, ensuring no one could rise against them. Their army was vast, and their weapons were devastating. For anyone who crossed them, there was only one fate: annihilation. In the distant corners of the galaxy, planets trembled at the mere mention of the Xathar's name. Entire civilizations had fallen to their might. Some planets were enslaved, their inhabitants forced to serve the Xathar's every whim. Others were wiped out, their cities reduced to ashes as the Xathar expanded their empire. Entire species vanished without a trace, their existence erased from the galaxy's history. There was no hope. No one dared to challenge the Xathar, for they knew that resistance was futile. It was not just a matter of firepower, it was the very essence of the Xathar's strength. They had mastered the art of fear, and it worked every time. The galaxy had learned to bow to their will, to live in constant terror, for there was no escape. Yet, amid this galaxy-wide oppression, a whisper began to spread, a whisper of something that could shake the foundations of the Xathar Empire. It was nothing more than a rumor at first, a fleeting thought among the oppressed. But as time passed, the whispers grew louder, reaching the ears of those who had once been too afraid to speak. They spoke of Earth. For centuries, Earth had been forgotten by the rest of the galaxy. It was a small, insignificant planet located in a distant star system, hidden from the eyes of the galaxy's rulers. The Xathar had long ignored it, believing it to be an unimportant world with no resources or strategic value. The humans on Earth had lived in isolation, unaware of the galactic conflict that raged around them. To the Xathar, Earth was a non-threat, a place of no consequence. But the rumors told a different story. They spoke of a race that had once been strong, a species that had survived against impossible odds. The humans of Earth had been quiet for many years, but they had not been idle. They had spent their time in secret, hidden away from the Xathar's watchful eyes. And now, it seemed, they were ready to reveal themselves. The galaxy was unaware of what humanity had been doing, but those who whispered of Earth spoke of a single powerful warship, a ship unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. It was said to be a force of nature, capable of destroying entire fleets with ease. Its weapons were so advanced, no one could comprehend how it was possible. It was the ultimate weapon, and it was humanity's secret. At first, no one believed it. How could such a small, forgotten planet possess a warship capable of challenging the might of the Xathar? But as the whispers grew, so did the fear. What if it were true? What if Earth had developed a weapon that could turn the tide of the galaxy's war? What if the Xathar's reign of terror was about to come to an end? The Xathar, too, had heard the rumors, but they dismissed them with arrogance. They had faced countless enemies, all of whom had failed to stand against them. The Xathar believed they were invincible, that no force in the galaxy could ever challenge their supremacy. They laughed at the idea of a human warship posing any threat. However, something inside them began to stir. A feeling of unease crept through the Xathar ranks. What if there was truth to the rumors? What if Earth had created something beyond their understanding? The idea gnawed at their minds, but they quickly pushed it aside. The Xathar had no time for idle fears. Yet, as time passed, the fear grew. The whispers of Earth's warship were no longer just rumors. They were becoming more solid, more real. The Xathar could not ignore it any longer. They had to act. In the darkness of space, the human warship was ready. The Xathar would soon learn that their empire, built on fear and domination, was about to face an enemy they could never have imagined. The galaxy was about to change forever. And so, the stage was set. The mighty Xathar Empire, rulers of the galaxy, would soon come face to face with the one thing they had never considered, a power they could never defeat: humanity. The first strike. The galaxy had been ruled by fear for as long as anyone could remember, but something was changing. Whispers of a new power, one that no one could have imagined, were spreading. These whispers spoke of Earth, a long-forgotten world that the galaxy had dismissed as inconsequential. Yet it seemed that Earth was preparing for something far greater than anyone had expected. The Xathar Empire, unaware of what was to come, continued their reign with unchallenged power. Their fleets patrolled the galaxy, crushing any resistance and asserting their dominance over the weaker species. They laughed at the rumors of a human warship, convinced that such an idea was nothing more than a fantasy. After all, how could a single isolated planet ever hope to challenge the might of the Xathar? But the humans were not what the Xathar believed them to be. They had spent centuries hiding their true strength, biding their time. The time for silence was over. Earth had unleashed something unimaginable, a warship unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. It was sleek, its design sharp and angular, and it gleamed with an energy that Xathar had never encountered before. The human warship was a marvel of technology, an engine of destruction capable of taking down entire fleets. Its weapons were powerful enough to slice through the strongest armor, and its shields could withstand the most advanced attacks. It was a weapon of unimaginable potential, built with the sole purpose of striking fear into the hearts of those who had once terrorized the galaxy. The first target was a small, unimportant fleet, a routine patrol sent by the Xathar to ensure the peace they had established through terror. The fleet, unaware of the threat that was coming their way, moved slowly through the star system. They had no reason to expect an attack. After all, who could challenge them? The Xathar Empire was invincible. But as the fleet cruised through the system, a strange signal appeared on their radar. It was faint at first, barely noticeable. But then, the signal grew stronger, more defined. Something was approaching. Something fast. The fleet's commander, a seasoned Xathar warrior, frowned at the screen. He had never seen anything like it before. The signal was unlike any ship he had encountered. Before he could issue any orders, the unknown ship appeared in the distance, its silhouette cutting through the stars. It was huge, but sleek, something that looked far too advanced to be from a primitive world like Earth. The Xathar commander's mind raced, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. How could this be? A human ship? Impossible. But there was no time for questions. The human warship didn't hesitate. It moved swiftly through space, its weapons powering up. The Xathar fleet's commander tried to communicate with the strange ship, but it was too late. The first barrage of laser fire ripped through the Xathar fleet, taking out the outermost ships in seconds. The Xathar responded quickly, launching counterattacks with their powerful weapons, but it was clear that they were outmatched. The human warship's shields absorbed the blasts effortlessly, and its counterstrikes were devastatingly accurate. Within moments, several Xathar warships were destroyed, their massive hulls breaking apart as they were torn apart by the human fire. The remaining Xathar ships tried to regroup, but the human warship didn't give them a chance. It was relentless, moving with precision, striking with deadly force. The Xathar commander's mind raced. How was this possible? How was this tiny planet able to build such a powerful weapon? The galaxy's greatest empire was being shattered by a single human ship. Desperation set in. The Xathar began retreating, trying to flee before they were completely annihilated. But it was too late. The human warship pursued them, cutting down ship after ship with cold efficiency. The Xathar had underestimated their foe, and now they were paying the price. In the end, only a handful of Xathar warships managed to escape. The rest lay shattered in the debris of the battle, their crews either dead or scattered. The human warship, its mission complete, disappeared into the vastness of space. The galaxy had witnessed something no one could have imagined. The first strike against the Xathar Empire by a single human ship. The terror that had gripped the galaxy for so long was beginning to unravel, and the Xathar were left to wonder, what other surprises did Earth have in store? The fear spreads. The battle between the human warship and the Xathar fleet sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. News of the terrifying defeat reached every corner of the galaxy in mere hours. Across star systems, civilizations that had long lived under the oppressive rule of the Xathar Empire were left in disbelief. How could this happen? The mighty Xathar, conquerors of countless worlds, had been defeated by a single ship from a planet they thought was gone forever. In the wake of the attack, panic spread like wildfire. The Xathar Empire, once unchallenged and feared by all, was now facing the unimaginable. An enemy from Earth had risen to challenge their reign. The Xathar leadership, shocked and enraged by the loss, scrambled to understand what had just occurred. How was it possible that a single human warship could decimate an elite fleet? While the Xathar regrouped, the rest of the galaxy began to react. The long-subjugated species, who had lived in the shadow of the Xathar for centuries, began to question everything they had been told. Was it true that humanity had been wiped out? Were they now back to reclaim what was once theirs? On planets across the galaxy, leaders began to fear the consequences of anchoring this mysterious human force. Some saw the human warship as a symbol of hope, a sign that it was time to rise up against the tyranny that had ruled them for so long. Others feared that the human ship was just the beginning, and that Earth would send an unstoppable armada to claim their worlds next. Back on Earth, the human government was already making plans. The attack had been a message, a declaration of their intent to reclaim their rightful place in the galaxy. It was just the first step in a long process that would see humanity take back what was lost and ensure that the Xathar Empire would never threaten them again. But the victory came at a cost. The battle had been costly, and the human warship was damaged. Its crew, although victorious, knew that they would need reinforcements to continue their mission. Earth, however, was prepared. More ships, more weapons, and more technology were already being readied in secret. The galaxy had underestimated Earth once, but they would not make that mistake again. Meanwhile, the Xathar Empire was not idle. The loss of an entire fleet was a humiliation they could not tolerate. The Xathar High Council met in emergency session, their minds focused on one thing: revenge. The defeat of their fleet could not stand, and they vowed to make humanity pay for their insolence. Their response would be swift and brutal. They would crush Earth before it could become a serious threat. But the galaxy had changed. The battle for dominance was no longer about who could crush the most worlds or build the biggest fleet. The balance of power had shifted. A single ship had taken down an entire Xathar fleet, and if one ship could do that, who knew what more Earth had in store? In the coming weeks, the Xathar mobilized a massive armada, preparing for what they believed would be the final confrontation with Earth. They gathered every available warship and weapon, determined to show the galaxy that the Xathar Empire was still the supreme power in the universe. But as they prepared for war, one question haunted the minds of everyone in the galaxy. What if the humans had something even more powerful than a single warship? What if Earth was holding back its true power, waiting for the perfect moment to strike? The terror that had once been associated with the Xathar was now transferred to Earth. The galaxy was no longer certain who held the power. One thing was clear, though. The human warship had shown them all that the old order was no longer safe. The balance of power had tipped, and the universe would never be the same again. The Xathar's counterattack. The Xathar Empire was shaken to its core. The loss of an elite fleet to a single human warship was an event that would never be forgotten. In the vast halls of the Xathar High Council, whispers of fear and rage filled the air. The once unstoppable empire was now facing a new kind of threat, one they could not easily dismiss. The humans had come out of nowhere, and their power was unlike anything the Xathar had ever encountered. But the Xathar were not known for backing down. They were conquerors, rulers of the galaxy for millennia, and they would not let this humiliating defeat define them. The High Council convened immediately, gathering their greatest minds to formulate a response. It was clear that the humans were no longer the weak, primitive species they had once believed them to be. They had weapons, technology, and strategy that rivaled the greatest empires in the galaxy. The Xathar decided on one thing: they would strike first. Their counterattack would be swift, brutal, and leave no room for humanity to retaliate. They would send their most powerful fleet to Earth and crush the human warship before it could even think about striking again. The Xathar had underestimated the humans before, but they would not make that mistake again. As the Xathar armada began its journey to Earth, the galaxy held its breath. For centuries, the Xathar had ruled with fear and power. Their fleets were legendary, and their soldiers were feared across the stars. But now, they were facing a force they did not understand. The humans had sent a message, and the galaxy was watching to see what the outcome would be. Meanwhile, back on Earth, humanity was preparing for the inevitable. They knew the Xathar would come for them, and they were ready. The warship that had taken down the Xathar fleet was only the beginning. Earth had hidden its true power for far too long, and now it was time to reveal what they were truly capable of. In secret bunkers beneath the surface of Earth, humanity's greatest minds worked day and night to prepare their forces. New warships were constructed, weapons of unimaginable power were tested, and strategies were devised. The humans had learned from their first encounter with the Xathar, and they would not make the same mistakes. The Galactic Council, too, watched the situation with growing concern. The Xathar Empire had always been a symbol of power and dominance, but now it seemed that even they could be challenged. Some species that had long been oppressed by the Xathar began to feel a glimmer of hope. Could the humans be the key to breaking the Xathar's hold on the galaxy? Could they be the ones to bring down the oppressive empire that had ruled for so long? But there was also fear. If the Xathar failed to crush Earth, what would happen? Would humanity's power continue to grow? Would they become the new dominant force in the galaxy, overthrowing the old order and creating a new era of conflict and instability? The Xathar fleet approached Earth at full speed. It was the largest armada they had ever assembled, filled with the most advanced warships and soldiers in their arsenal. They were determined to finish what they had started and wipe out humanity before they could pose a real threat. But as they neared Earth, something unexpected happened. The human warship, the one that had single-handedly destroyed an entire fleet, was not alone anymore. More ships appeared, ships unlike anything the Xathar had seen before. These ships were sleek, powerful, and brimming with advanced technology. The humans had hidden their true strength, and now it was being revealed in full force. The Xathar commanders watched in shock as humanity's fleet emerged from the shadows. They had expected a simple retaliation, but what they saw before them was something far more terrifying. The humans had not only survived, they had thrived. And now they were ready to fight. The first wave of Xathar ships charged forward, weapons blazing, as they closed in on Earth's defenses. But the human fleet was ready. The battle that would decide the fate of the galaxy had begun. As the two forces collided, the galaxy watched in awe. For the first time in centuries, the Xathar Empire was being challenged in a way they never expected. The humans had proven that they were not just survivors, they were warriors. And they would not back down. The battle for Earth. The Xathar fleet descended upon Earth with terrifying speed, their ships cutting through the void like predators closing in on their prey. They had made it clear, humanity's defiance would be met with annihilation. But Earth had its own plans, and what the Xathar didn't know was that humanity had already prepared for this day. The human warships, now part of an unexpectedly vast fleet, took position around Earth, their weapons primed and ready. At the heart of this defense was the warship that had already proven itself to be a force capable of terrifying the galaxy. But it was not alone anymore. The newly formed human fleet, composed of countless advanced ships, appeared as if from nowhere, surrounding Earth like a protective shield. The Xathar commanders were caught off guard. They had believed Earth to be weak, an insignificant dot in the vast expanse of space. But now, as they stared into the human fleet, they realized the full extent of their mistake. The humans had not only survived, they had become formidable. "Prepare to engage," barked the lead Xathar commander. His voice echoed through the command room, though it was laced with a hint of uncertainty. The Xathar had come for total domination, but this wasn't the easy conquest they had envisioned. This was war. The first wave of Xathar ships began to fire, their weapons launching devastating energy blasts toward the human fleet. But Earth's ships were quick, agile, and heavily armed. They dodged and countered with precision, their weaponry tearing into the Xathar ships with alarming accuracy. The battle erupted into chaos as explosions lit up the sky, debris scattering in all directions. "Deploy the flares," shouted the human fleet commander. A dazzling array of bright lights shot from the human ships, confusing the Xathar sensors. The flares created a temporary disorienting effect, blinding the Xathar gunners and allowing the humans to launch their counterattacks. The Xathar were forced to adapt quickly. Their ships adjusted to the dazzling lights, but the humans had already begun to press the advantage. Each ship in Earth's fleet seemed to move as one, with an eerie synchronicity that made the Xathar's every move predictable. The human tactics were unlike anything the Xathar had ever faced. They had never seen such unity in battle. Meanwhile, on the ground, Earth's leaders watched the battle unfold with bated breath. They had always known that their moment would come, but now that it had arrived, it was a terrifying reality. But there was no turning back. The humans were committed to this fight, not just for survival, but for vengeance. The galaxy had wronged them, and Earth would make sure that the Xathar knew the cost of underestimating humanity. Back in space, the battle raged on. The Xathar tried to regroup, but their once dominant fleet was slowly being torn apart by the relentless human counteroffensive. The human warships, though fewer in number, moved with a deadly precision. Each strike hit its target, and the Xathar found themselves on the defensive. "Retreat is not an option," the Xathar commander said, his voice now cold and desperate. His fleet was crumbling, but pride would not let him back down. The Xathar had always been conquerors, and they would die as conquerors if they had to. But the humans were relentless. Every Xathar ship that fell was replaced by another wave of human forces. The battle was no longer just about survival. It was about sending a message to the entire galaxy. Humanity would not be crushed. They would rise from the ashes of their destruction and take back what was theirs. The Xathar began to realize that their forces were being overwhelmed. The human fleet was not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for their future, for their very existence. Each human ship had a story, a history, and a purpose. They were not going to let their home, their people, be wiped out again. As the Xathar fleet faltered, the human warship at the center of the attack unleashed its most powerful weapon. A brilliant burst of energy shot out, striking one of the largest Xathar ships with an intensity that obliterated it in a single blast. The sheer power of the attack sent shockwaves through the battlefield, causing several nearby Xathar ships to lose control and crash into one another. The tide of battle had shifted. The humans had made their stand, and they were winning. As the Xathar began to retreat, their once proud fleet scattered in chaos. A sense of disbelief spread throughout the galaxy. Could it be possible? Had the Xathar, the seemingly invincible empire, been defeated by humanity? For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was forced to reconsider everything it had known. The humans were no longer the underdogs, the weaklings who had once been crushed. They had proven themselves to be fierce, capable, and relentless. The battle for Earth was over, but the war for the galaxy was just beginning. Humanity had sent its message, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The empire crumbles. The Xathar fleet, once the most feared in the galaxy, now limped away, battered and broken. But their retreat was not a victory. It was a defeat that rang through the stars like a death knell. The human warships, victorious in their first battle, continued to patrol Earth's orbit, ensuring no more Xathar ships would dare approach. The war was far from over, but the humans had made their mark. Their presence was undeniable. Back on Earth, leaders gathered in command centers, staring at the digital maps of the galaxy. They had won a crucial battle, but the Xathar Empire was vast. It wouldn't be enough to simply defend Earth. Humanity would have to go on the offensive if they were ever going to secure their future. The victory had proven humanity's strength, but the galaxy's response was still a question. Would the other alien factions seek revenge for the Xathar's defeat, or would they recognize humanity as a force to be reckoned with? The Council of Earth's leaders convened, and a new resolve filled the room. The moment they'd feared for so long had come. The galaxy had taken notice. Humanity was no longer just surviving. They were fighting back, and they would not stop until they had taken back what was stolen from them. Meanwhile, the Xathar Empire was reeling from the shocking defeat. Their commanders, who had once mocked humanity as weak, were now scrambling to pick up the pieces of their shattered fleet. The loss was catastrophic, and their pride was wounded. But the Xathar had never been ones to admit defeat. They had been rulers of the galaxy for centuries. A single human warship had not broken them. No, they would regroup, rebuild, and return. The Xathar were proud, and they would never bow to a race they considered beneath them. The Xathar's High Council met in secret, their voices hushed as they discussed their next move. Revenge was inevitable. The humans had struck the first blow, but the Xathar were plotting their retaliation. Their retaliation would be swift, and they believed deadly. The humiliation of their defeat had sparked a fire within them. The Xathar would not let this stand. But even as the Xathar plotted, the humans were already moving forward. Earth's warships, bolstered by new technology and weapons, began to spread throughout the galaxy. The humans knew they had a long road ahead of them, but they were prepared. They had tasted victory, and it fueled them. The human fleet, equipped with advanced AI and superior tactics, quickly became a force that no empire could ignore. They started to gather allies, convincing other alien races that humanity could be a powerful ally. The once dismissed human race had proven itself as a warrior species, capable of taking on the most powerful forces the galaxy had to offer. The Xathar, however, were not the only empire with designs on the galaxy. As news of the humans' victory spread, rival factions took notice. Some saw humanity's rise as a threat, while others saw an opportunity to ally with them. But none could underestimate what Earth had become. In the depths of space, the remaining Xathar warships regrouped. Their commanders, bruised but not broken, began planning their counterattack. The humans had dealt them a blow, but they had not defeated them. The Xathar Empire still held vast portions of the galaxy, and they would stop at nothing to reclaim their honor. The humans had made a dangerous enemy, but Earth was no longer the fragile planet that Xathar had once destroyed. The humans were united, determined, and hungry for justice. The Xathar had waged war on Earth, and now humanity was prepared to take the fight to them. As the first signs of the Xathar's preparations for war appeared on the edges of the galaxy, humanity's fleet made its way toward them. Earth's warships moved in perfect formation, their engines humming with the promise of another battle. The galaxy had witnessed the power of a single human warship, but now they would see the full force of humanity's fury. The Xathar had underestimated Earth once, and they would pay for it. The time for retreat was over. The humans had returned, and this time, they were not backing down. The final confrontation. The time for waiting was over. Both sides had built their forces, and the galaxy now held its breath as the inevitable final confrontation loomed on the horizon. The Xathar had suffered grievously at the hands of humanity, but they were far from beaten. Their pride, once wounded, had been reignited, and they were prepared to wage war with a ferocity that few could comprehend. The humans, on the other hand, had proven their resolve. They had fought, survived, and emerged victorious once. This time, they would not be content with merely defending themselves. They would take the fight to the heart of the Xathar Empire. The Xathar fleet, now fully rebuilt and bolstered by reinforcements, gathered in a vast formation. Their ships, monstrous in size and cloaked in darkness, filled the starry void like a swarm of vengeful insects. The Xathar were determined to prove that their defeat was a fluke, a momentary lapse in their otherwise unchallenged dominance over the galaxy. They believed they could crush humanity's ambition with one decisive blow. Meanwhile, Earth's fleet, now a formidable force, had traveled deep into the Xathar-controlled regions of space. Humanity's warships, each one a symbol of Earth's resilience and new strength, stood ready for what would surely be the most intense battle of their lives. The humans knew that this was not just a fight for survival, it was a fight for the future of their people and the freedom of the galaxy. They had nothing left to lose. The final battle began as both fleets converged in the heart of the Xathar Empire, a system where the once mighty Xathar had built their capital. The stars above flickered like distant beacons as the two forces met in a flash of light and thunder. The first wave of human warships moved with precision, their engines roaring with power, their weapons poised for action. Every ship, every soldier, every fighter knew the gravity of what was at stake. The Xathar launched their assault with ruthless efficiency, unleashing wave after wave of firepower. Their ships were massive, their weapons devastating, and their technology advanced. But the humans had something that Xathar could not account for: unity. The humans fought not only for victory, but for vengeance. Their resolve was unshakable, and their strategies, developed over months of war, were flawless. The battle was brutal, the two sides clashing in a frenzy of laser fire, explosions, and the deafening roar of warships colliding. The Xathar, with all their power and arrogance, soon realized that their greatest advantage, their size, was now a liability. The human warships, smaller, faster, and far more maneuverable, darted in and out of the Xathar lines, striking with deadly precision. On Earth, the command center was alive with activity. The leaders, once cautious and fearful of the Xathar, now watched as their fleet moved forward with unyielding determination. There was no turning back now. Victory was within their grasp, and humanity's future depended on the outcome of this battle. They knew the Xathar would fight until the last, but the humans had learned to never underestimate their own power. Every human soldier, every officer, every commander felt the weight of the responsibility. As the battle raged on, the Xathar fleet began to falter. Their ships, once invincible, now showed cracks in their armor. The Xathar had not anticipated the humans' ingenuity, their adaptability, or their drive. The tide of battle was turning. The humans had forced the Xathar into a corner, and there was no escape. With one final push, the humans launched their full offensive, overwhelming the Xathar forces. The Xathar's pride, once a force of destruction, had become their greatest weakness. The humans had taken everything they had thrown at them and returned it tenfold. The Xathar fleet, broken and battered, began to retreat, their once mighty ships fleeing into the depths of space. But it was too late. The damage had been done. The humans had proven their strength, their resolve, and their unrelenting will to survive. The Xathar had underestimated humanity before, and now they would never make that mistake again. As the last remnants of the Xathar fleet vanished into the dark void, humanity stood victorious. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. The galaxy had seen what humans were capable of, and nothing would ever be the same again. Earth had claimed its revenge, and the galaxy would never forget the day when the Xathar Empire fell, not because of the might of their technology, but because of the unbreakable spirit of humanity. The humans had shown the galaxy that even in the face of overwhelming odds, they could rise to meet any challenge and emerge victorious. The war might be over, But the story of humanity's rise had only just begun. The galaxy would never forget the lesson humanity had taught them. Never underestimate the power of a single human warship and the resolve of a species that had been pushed too far.